Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 18th of August, now it's 11 o'clock in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day, in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment, but before I start, let me take a couple of minutes and make a few important for this project announcements. I can do it later on towards the end of the update, but because not everyone is listening entire updates, probably will be better if I'll make these announcements in the beginning to avoid any possible misunderstandings. So first of all, as you know, I did ask your question yesterday, what you will prefer, what format, two shorter updates in the first and the second half of the day, or one major one with follow-up updates whenever anything significant is happening. And I did read your comments, and well, I did make decision to continue work with one major update with follow-up updates whenever any significant development is taking place. This way I will have enough time to work on not just on this main channels on YouTube and Rumble about news and political commentary, but also on other channels and also on Telegram, because we are going back to Moscow region, and I do have plenty of ideas to work on, and two updates a day in the first and the second half does not leave me any time really to work on some other ideas. And I did try, by the way, I did try entire this week I was working with this format, two updates, and to be honest, I only had like 3-4 hours sleep a day. That's how time consuming that format is, when you take in account that I have to work on some other for some other channels also, like Telegram for example, which demands from me to be online all the time, and some other projects. And by the way, that's the first announcement, that if I may, I will continue work with one major packed with the news updates, and whenever it's necessary, I will of course make additional update whenever something extremely important is happening. And the next update is that, by the way, this today this video gonna be last one for this year from North Ossetia, Alania, because as I said, we are going back to Moscow region, and next update will be from Moscow region on Monday. Tomorrow is my day off, it's Saturday, but I would not be able to make video Sunday also, because road from Vladikavkaz to Moscow will take about 2 days. So next update will be on Monday. And if you see, and I would not be able to be active in the comment section, so if some members of our community did not watch this video and then start asking questions on Telegram or in the comment sections why Levan didn't make update on Sunday, please give them an answer that I'm just on the way towards Moscow region, and next update will be on Monday from there. And one more announcement. Sorry, it's this intro is too long, but one more announcement is that yesterday I did upload one more video on my new channel, second channel from Russia with Levan. I forget to upload this video on Rumble also. I will do it today. And this video is about supermarket chains. As you know, previous video was about electronic stores, and this video is about supermarket chains, how sanctions did impact Russian stores, and hopefully you will find it interesting. Name of this new channel is From Russia with Levan, and this channel will be mainly about life in Russia, with minimum talks about news and politics. This channel is just about life. And as I said, I do have some ideas to develop this new channel. And when we will be in Moscow, of course, I will work much more actively on this channel also. So by the way, if you are not yet subscribed, please consider to do so. I promise there will be plenty of updates on this channel also. And now let's, and you can see link under this video in description box or in the pinned comment to my second channels on YouTube and Rumble. And now let's talk about news. And first of all, of course, breaking news for this morning, which is that Ukrainian armed forces did strike in direction of Moscow once again with the long-range drones. According to latest reports, in early hours of this morning, Russian radio-electronic warfare system did suppress Ukrainian drone, and as a result of losing orientation, that drone fell down in Moscow's business district area, and one building, and then hit one of the buildings, Expo Center. That's the name of that building. And well, building did had some damage, nothing extreme. I did share videos, by the way, of that strike on my Telegram. You can check those videos if you are interested. And well, according to Mayor of Moscow, Sergei Sobyanin, there is no reports from emergency services about casualties on the ground as a result of this strike. Unfortunately, this is not the first and not the last time when Zelensky and his criminal associates are targeting Russian capital. And by the way, they are targeting civilian, completely civilian area, because business district has nothing to do with military installations or anything military, really. So this is Russian side does characterize these strikes as a terrorist activity, as a terrorism, and well, I'm completely agree that this is pure terrorism. It has nothing to do with the military, with legit military targets. So unfortunately, this type of actions will probably terrorist activity from Zelensky and his associates will continue as long as the so-called Western elites are providing Zelensky and his people with long-range weapons, with intelligence, with money and technology. So, and by the way, if they are thinking that they're gonna scare Russian society, they are very, very mistaken. Russian society will become more and more angry as this type of terrorist attacks are taking place. And I guess we are closing into to the point when society will demand from Russian leadership to take some drastic measures to neutralize Zelensky and his associates, and eventually it may happen. And by the way, let me continue now. And TASS news agency is reporting that during the previous 24 hours, Russian armed forces repelled 6 Ukrainian counteroffensives, local-scale counteroffensives in direction of Krasny Liman, which is northern sector. And as we all know, initiative in northern sector is fully in Russian hands. And even though Ukrainian forces are trying to regain initiative, at least in some directions on the northern sectors, they are pretty much unsuccessful. And this report confirms exactly that 6 attempts to improve their positions, 6 local-scale offensives, and all of them fail. And well, question when it comes to northern sectors, basically major question is when Russian side will begin large-scale offensive operations. That's the major question. No one is expecting that Ukrainian forces will manage to achieve anything whatsoever when it comes to northern sectors. But let me continue with a short summary of the situation on the front line, and I will talk in little more detail about northern sectors. Also, so first, Kherson region, deadlock, operational pause, local scale skirmishes, and constant fight for control over these small islands in the Dnieper River and delta of this river, artillery duels and recon operations. Nothing is happening in the scale that will influence overall situation on the front line. And by the way, as we predicted, Ukrainian sabotage groups that did cross Dnieper right next to Kazachi Lager settlement about a week ago. That unit was fully neutralized by Russian forces, and there is no bridgehead no more on the left bank of the Dnieper River in close vicinity from that Kazachi Lager settlement. As I said, it's operational pause on in Kherson direction, and nothing is happening that will influence overall situation in that area. Next is Zaporizhzhia and South Donetsk sectors. Main hotspots here is Rabotina in Zaporizhzhia sector and Vremevsky salient or ledge on the South Donetsk sector. When it comes to Rabotina, Zaporizhzhia sector, latest news is that Ukrainian forces are continuing their attempts to establish control over the Rabotina, and for this moment Ukrainian forces are controlling northern part of this small village. Russian forces are controlling southern side, and central part is kind of gray zone when no one side has full control over it. And by the way, let me show you the settlement on this map. It's really small settlement, and it's kind of surprising how long fights are taking place for this small settlement. Just look at it. Couple of roads, dozen of buildings, and that's it really. This is it, Rabotina. Tiny settlement really. But Ukrainian forces, despite all the attempts for how many weeks now to establish control over the Rabotina, are quite unsuccessful, and they had tremendous losses in this direction. And when it comes to Vremevsky salient, we did receive reports that after Russian forces withdraw from Urozhaina, also tiny settlement, Ukrainian forces did receive additional reinforcements, and they are now beginning to conduct their offensive operations in direction of these two settlements, Zavitnaye Bazhane and Staro Malinovka. And we did had some reports that Ukrainian forces are trying to bypass this settlement here, Zavitnaye Bazhane, and strike Staro Malinovka first. Mainly because of this river, by the way. I believe Ukrainian forces find it difficult to cross this river on the northern side, and maybe geography on the southern side is much easier for crossing. I don't know, but that's the report that I read on Rybar's channel. Rybar is the biggest Russian military channel on Telegram, so I guess today and during the next couple of days, these two settlements become major hotspots on the South Donetsk sector, Zavitnaye Bazhane and Staro Malinovka here. But overall situation is operational pause, and I remind you that Ukrainian forces, if in Zaporizhzhia direction, Ukrainian forces are close enough now to first line of defense, and if they will be able to establish control over the Rabotina, well, they can say that they did reach first line of defense. By the way, also very active is becoming this settlement here, Verbove. But when it comes to South Donetsk sector, Ukrainian forces are not even close to first line of defense, at least for this moment. Overall, it's operational pause or deadlock on the both sides, even though local scale fierce fighting is taking place, and I'm quite sure Washington and London will not allow Zelensky to save its last strategic reserves, and sometime in the future, in coming weeks, we will probably see second wave of Ukrainian counteroffensive. And by the way, I did share on my Telegram this morning this footage of epic video footage really of close range battle of Ukrainian and Russian armed groups. This battle happened on Zaporizhzhia sector of the front, and well, Russian battle group, Russian armored group did become victorious in this battle, and well, truly epic frame, because tanks and armored personnel carriers were firing at each other at point blank range, basically. So some truly fierce battles are taking place in Zaporizhzhia and South Donetsk sectors of the front, but yet again, this is local scale battles that are not really influencing overall situation on the entire sectors. Let's continue. Donetsk direction, of course, main hotspots are Marinka, Krasnogorovka, and Avdiivka when it comes to central and southern flank, and of course Bakhmut or Artyomovsk and flanks of this city. When it comes to southern side, even though in previous 24 to 48 hours we did have reports that Russian forces were conducting offensive operations in Avdiivka direction, nothing is happening that will that can be called breakthrough, at least for this moment, and it's mainly artillery duels and recon operations for both sides. Russian forces are also active in Krasnogorovka direction, but this is continuous. This is continuous story. Russian forces are trying to cut all the communication lines that are connecting Krasnogorovka with Marinka and also with South Donetsk sector of the front. In Avdiivka and even in Vremevsky salient, some significant logistical lines are passing this settlement, and that's why Russian forces lately are quite active to distract this logistical lines. And there are some reports that Russian forces are even inside Krasnogorovka now. But yet again, without photo and video confirmation, it's difficult to say for sure. When it comes to Bakhmut direction, we did had reports that Kiev did send additional reinforcement in the direction of Bakhmut, and especially in direction of southern flank of Bakhmut. And if that's the case, then I guess in next couple of days we will see yet another wave of Ukrainian local scale offensives in direction of Klishevka, Andreevka and Kurdyumovka. As you know, Ukrainian forces did conduct at least several waves of these local scale offensive, counteroffensive operations on the southern flank of Bakhmut. At some point they were very close to capture Klishevka, but then Russian forces counterattack and counterattack with significant force, and as a result of clashes in this area, Ukrainian forces lost about 2 brigades, by the way. And now I guess some additional brigades will be directed in this area, and well, I guess Russian forces will take out those brigades also. That's what will happen. When it comes to northern flank of Bakhmut, initiative is in Russian side. We did had reports that Ukrainian forces were trying to become somewhat active in Solidar direction, but all the attempts were repealed, and Bakhmut itself, of course, fully controlled by Russian forces. When it comes to northern sectors of the front, from Seversk to Kupiansk, we did had reports that Russian forces are quite active yet again in Belogorovka direction, and well, it's quite predictable. I guess we will see more and more increase in fight in Seversk direction, especially in Belogorovka area and in this forestry here. And this is logical because as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, main question when it comes to northern sectors of the front is that when Russian Defense Ministry will greenlight large-scale Russian offensive operation from Liman to Kupiansk, entire Kharkov region, we may say. And in this regard, I believe it's very important for Russian side to encircle, basically, at least to partially encircle Seversk, and to establish control over the Belogorovka area and this forestry here. So I believe in next week or two we will see very significant activization of Russian forces in this area. And when it comes to Liman, Kupiansk sectors, Russian forces are constantly conducting local scale offensive operations and improving their positions little by little, but yet again, only they are quite close enough now to Kupiansk, for example, and to conduct offensive on Kupiansk, they need it has to be a large scale offensive operation. You cannot conduct the local scale stuff when it comes to big, relatively big cities, and that's why me personally I do think that before end of this summer, so in next 2 weeks time, probably we will see, maybe in first half of September, before rainy season begins, we will probably see significant activization of Russian side in northern sectors, maybe even large scale offensive operation. And this is it for a quick summary of the situation on the front line. Overall situation is a operational pause, let's say, because no one side has achieved any breakthroughs. But as I said, I'm waiting now, not waiting, but I'm predicting that in next few weeks time we will see second wave of Ukrainian counteroffensive in the Zaporizhzhia and South Donetsk sectors of the front. Maybe simultaneously we will see attempt from Ukraine side to mass cross the Dnieper River, and in very same time period, next 2 to 4 weeks, I'm expecting Russian large-scale offensive operation in northern sectors of the front line. Let's see if my reading of big picture is more or less correct. After all, it's just logical, isn't it? Before, if any one side is planning to conduct large-scale offensive operations, when it comes to sectors of the front, then it has to be done before rainy season begins. So it's only about 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks left for that, and then rain will make these fields just impossible to cross on with military equipment. But anyway, let's continue now with some other news, and we have TASS news agency's report that according to Yan Gagin, aide for head of DPR, Donetsk People's Republic, according to Yan Gagin, Ukrainian side did reinforce Bakhmut, Artyomovsk direction, did send additional units in this area, and according to Gagin, these reinforcements have been done to these new deployments of Ukrainian forces have been done in attempt to continue offensive operation in Klishchevka direction, what I just said about a minute or two ago. So let's see, in next few days we will probably see significant activization of Ukrainian forces in Klishchevka, Andreevka, Kurdyumovka areas. Next news is a report from TASS news agency, according to which Washington, and this news is based on reports from Reuters, that Washington did give permission to Denmark and the Netherlands to send F-16 fighters to Zelensky's regime once training of the pilots will end. Despite this news, I'm remaining on my initial position that Zelensky and his associates will never have in their hands, under their full control or real control, Western-made fighter jets. So this information is probably some PSYOP. Reuters is a tool of Western propaganda, isn't it? So this is some kind of disinformation stuff, I believe, because there will be no Western fighter jets, no F-16s, no any other Western-made fighter jets in hands of Zelensky and his associates. But because they have no good news from Ukraine, Western elites and the media outlets, so-called media outlets, are coming up now with some PSYOPs, some media operations to somehow hype up this Ukrainian topic in the Western society, and somehow to give some to reinforce their propaganda that look at it, F-16s will be soon delivered, and well, then something will happen. This is just a BS propaganda from the West. Zelensky will never have Western fighter jets in his disposal. Anyway, let's continue. That's my take on it. By the way, I can be mistaken, but I just don't see a scenario in which Zelensky operates with Western-made fighter jets, because first of all, they cannot operate these fighter jets from Ukraine. And second of all, if any one country that are neighboring Ukraine will give permission to operate against Russia from their airfields, well, I guess Moscow will have no other option in that case to other than strike those airfields, because those airfields will be legitimate target. And I don't think Poland, Romania, or Slovakia really want to become a target for Russian missiles. I just don't see it. Anyway, let's continue. And RIA Novosti is reporting that, and by the way, we should always remember that Russian missiles, if they will strike ever NATO member states, may have not just conventional warheads. That's the main point that everyone should think about, especially in those NATO member states that are very active when it comes to anti-Russian actions. They should always remember that Russia has thousands and thousands of nukes that can be used anytime, just anytime. But anyway, let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that in Poland, by the way, some new waves of propaganda have been noticed. And well, we have report here that media publication Missi Polska, I may not pronouncing it correctly, sorry for that. So this media outlet, Missi Polska, did come up with the article of Polish expert Zbigniew Zankiewicz. And this expert is openly saying that Ukraine is losing. Ukraine is losing, no doubt about that. And Poland is getting ready for war. And he has in his articles many topics why he thinks that Poland is getting for wrong. Among his points are extreme level of military spendings of Poland when it comes to offensive weapons. And well, I will say that yes, this person, this individual Zbigniew Zankiewicz is correct. He is correct, and Poland is getting ready for war, but not with Russia, by the way. Poland is getting ready to fight with Ukraine, with Ukrainian Nazi units and Ukrainian armored units, Ukrainian army. Because at this point, I don't think anyone has any doubts that it's only a matter of time when Poland will send its troops in Western Ukraine. And initially, they may come up with some ideas, like these combined forces, they can call combined force of Ukraine and Poland to protect Western Ukraine. And they may come up with some other ideas. But fact is that with this move, Poland will basically establish full control over the western regions of Ukraine. And well, Ukrainians will understand this, and some may don't care about it, especially in the southern and the eastern Ukraine, in central Ukraine. They may don't care. They see themselves as a part of Russian world anyway. Majority of Ukrainian citizens in these regions. But when it comes to western part of Ukraine, well, that part is main stronghold for Ukrainian Nazis. It was this way during the Second World War, and it is that way now too. Western regions are main strongholds of Ukrainian Nazis, Ukrainian Nazi ideology, and Poland, of course, knows that it won't be easy ride when they will enter western regions of Ukraine, and at some point those Nazis will begin fight against Polish forces. And that's why I'm saying, yes, Poland is preparing for war, but not against Russia, but against Ukraine, against Ukrainian neo-Nazi units and Ukrainian armed forces that will join those neo-Nazis in this fight against Poland. That's why I'm quite sure that Washington and London will not allow Zelensky to save their last reserves. And that's why I'm saying that second wave of Ukrainian counteroffensive will probably happen, probably will take place, because of course Poland is acting under orders of Washington and London, and Poland probably has green light from Washington and London to take control over the western regions of Ukraine and to receive as minimum resistance as possible. Western so-called elites do need to make sure that Russian side will neutralize majority of Ukrainian forces. And to achieve this, they will force Zelensky now to continue this so-called counteroffensive. I hope I did explain myself well enough. Let me continue now. And how long is this video? 30 minutes. Okay, I will go through headlines now. And so next news is from RT. US intelligence believes Ukraine offensive will fail. This is Washington Post is reporting about it. Well, interesting, isn't it? All of us knew that Ukrainian so-called counteroffensive is failing, and we knew it from very first day. And Washington Post and US intelligence only now coming up with this understanding. Of course not, but yet again, this is part of this media campaign. This is part of propaganda, and I believe, as I just said, Washington and London at one hand will push Zelensky to continue this so-called counteroffensive to make sure that Russian side will neutralize as many Ukrainian battle-ready units as possible, so that Poland and some other NATO states will receive minimal resistance when they will enter Western Ukraine. And at the same time, with these kind of publications, Western elites are preparing ground or society in the West also for inevitable destruction of Kyiv regime. Inevitable destruction of Kyiv regime, and they have to somehow distance themselves from that failure, and they need someone to blame. And in foreseeable future, we will probably see not just this type of articles on Washington Post, New York Times, and some other Guardian, and then so on, and some other media outlets, Western ones. But we will also see that so-called Western media will begin pointing fingers on Ukraine's officials, and they will begin blame them, that it's because of the incompetence that Russia become victorious in this conflict. It's inevitable, you know. It's logical. It seems logical to me that this will happen. But anyway, let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that, well, as you know, Russian Defense Ministry is on regular basis sharing with public information about activity of US military Pentagon when it comes to laboratories, biological laboratories, and some works on viruses and so on. And well, seems like in response, Pentagon did come up with a statement now, and they are blaming Russia. But it's Russia is working on bioweapons. Well, this cat and mouse game, I mean, this blame game will probably never end. But Russia has factual evidence that US militaries run laboratories all around the world, including in Ukraine. Some Ukrainian labs maybe was removed from there and deployed in some other places, but we know, for example, that US military is run by a lab in Georgia, for example. That's factual information, and all around the world, really. This is not questionable topic. This is factual information that Pentagon runs biolabs all around the world. When Russia, no one has any factual evidence that Russia does the same. I did not see any news with any video or photo confirmation that Russia runs biolabs and Russian militaries, by the way, and are working on biological weapons. So this is pure propaganda from the West. They cannot be trusted. That's it. Let me continue. TASS news agency is reporting that head of Turkish foreign ministry will have talks with Lavrov, head of Russian foreign ministry, about grain deal. Well, Turkey is very upset, of course, that this grain deal is not working at this moment, because Turkey was heavily involved in this, and Turkey not just was making money on it, but also generating some additional workplaces thanks to grain deal, because majority of grain was transported to Turkey and then from Turkey to some other places, and significant amount of that grain was processed in Turkey into flour, which adds value to a product, and that additional value was staying in Turkey. And I do understand that from economical point of view, Turkey is losing now significantly, and they want grain deal to be resolved, but to be reopen again, or to start working again. But Moscow did said quite clearly that whenever Western elites will fulfill their obligation towards Russia, Russia will join grain deal again, and there will be no issue. So I mean, it's better, I guess, for Turkish foreign minister to talk with the Western foreign ministers from Western countries about grain deal, because what Lavrov gonna tell him that Putin didn't say already? But anyway, they may talk about some other topics also, so it's always good when sides are communicating. And by the way, in continuation of somewhat continuation of this topic, as you know, a few days ago we had reports that cargo ship, container ship did left Odessa port a few days ago, and it was moving towards Turkey. And we had a report today that this ship, Joseph Schulte, did basically, I guess, it left Black Sea at this point, and Turkish officials come up with statements that this ship is not this ship is container ship. It does not moves agricultural produce. It moves containers. Because we all know there was some noise why this ship was allowed to left Odessa. That's why, I guess. It has containers on board. So why should Russian side block this ship? I mean, and as I understand, Chinese did ask Russia to allow this ship to leave Odessa port, and that's also a factor, because Moscow and China do have a quite good relationship. Let me continue now. And RIA Novosti is reporting that ECOWAS countries are preparing for invasion, and statement was made from this organization that if Niger's current government would not reinstall in power previous president, then military action will be taken. I guess France will not stop. I guess French leadership will try to the end to push ECOWAS countries in this suicidal operation, really, to conduct an invasion of Niger. And well, if it will happen, then, as I said, man, it will destroy entire region. This conflict will very fast become regional, and I don't think ECOWAS states wants that. So they should think twice. Are they willing to sacrifice their countries and their citizens for interests of corrupt and criminal elites of the France? Anyway, let's continue. RT is reporting that Indian moon mission reaches a new milestone. Well, these days, so many expeditions are taking place in the direction of moon. And, well, according to this news, Indian moon lander have been separated from spacecraft. So let me read it. So, lander module of India's lunar mission successfully separated, yes, from the propulsion module of the Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft, and well, it's now preparing to descend. And this lunar lander will lunar probe will land on 23rd of August. And by the way, as we all know, on 21st of August, a Russian lunar probe, Lunar 25, will also land on the moon, on the southern pole of the moon. So, well done for India and for Russia. Let's hope landing operation will go smoothly, and entire these programs, in Indian one and Russian one, will be successful story. World needs some good news, by the way, definitely. World needs some good news. And next information is about former BMW's plant in Russia. So RT is reporting that BMW's former plant in Russia launches production of Chinese car. How ironic is that, by the way? How ironic is that? What German government did to German's economy and continues to do, man, is just unbelievable. German car manufacturers were extremely successful on Russian market, and they have been forced to withdraw from Russia now. And China is taking over not just market share of former German companies, but also over the plants that were producing that was used by German car manufacturers to produce their BMWs and Volkswagens, Mercedes, and so on. So that's irony, by the way. When someday this conflict in Ukraine will end, and the Russia and Western states will begin to somehow rebuild relationships, it's inevitable, isn't it? It will take time, but someday it will happen, and it's gonna be extremely difficult for Western companies to reestablish themselves on Russian market, which is quite significant, by the way. After all, Russia has 145 million citizens, and millions and millions of foreign citizens are living in Russia permanently. So it's a quite significant market, lucrative market, really. But anyway, and this news is exactly confirming this. RT is reporting also, by the way, that world famous battery manufacturer Duracell will stay on Russian market, but it will rebrand itself in Russia to avoid, I guess, Western sanctions. And the Russian branch or Russian brand of this company will be named Opticell. That will be name for Duracell in Russia, Opticell, and they will have a logo like red beer. Duracell has logo of bunny, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it? And in Russia, they will rebrand themselves. They will become a Russian company, and formally, and they will have a red beer on as a logo. Anyway, let's continue. And by the way, this is going to be last news for today's update. RIA Novosti is reporting that as a result of some measures that was taken by Central Bank of Russian Federation, including this drastic increase in interest rates by 350 basis points, of course it did influence exchange rate of Russian currency. And a few days ago, exchange rate, for example, of dollar was 100 ruble, 101, 102 even at some point. for a dollar. Now it's 93 rubles for a dollar. As I did said straight away, for in short time these steps from central bank will work, but eventually I believe the market should regulate exchange rate. That's the best approach. And in that case, I guess exchange rate will continue to change. Russian ruble will continue to decline a little bit. And before end of this year, we will probably see 110, 120 rubles for a dollar. Maybe even more than that. But anyway, let's wait and see. For now, exchange rate is 93 rubles for $1. This is it for now. I hope you will find this update interesting, and if so, please consider to click that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Twitter, Facebook, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. That will significantly increase my chances to reach wider audience. And by the way, let me also thank everyone who supports this project and my work through donations, with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, and by subscribing to my Patreon page. Without your support, this project would not exist. So thank you very much. This is it for now. Have a great day, and see you Monday.